Dan the Natural Man Show. Hello. Okay, so today is Sunday. It's a beautiful day. I want to talk about intermittent fasting versus just a regular 3-meal calorie restriction diet or 4 meals. Just as long you eat as much as you want to, as long as you're staying in a deficit if you're trying to lose weight. Because for most people that are intermittent fasting, they're trying to lose weight and they think that it's a good way to lose weight and it works better than just calorie restriction. So we want to talk about, does it work better? Does intermittent fasting work better than just normal calorie restriction for weight loss? And what are some of the health benefits or implications of intermittent fasting now that they're doing, they're studying this more? So, they go into the study here talking about type 2 diabetes. There's like 590 million people in the world that have type 2 diabetes now. And this is a disease of, in the article talking about this disease of absorbing more energy than they use. So, more food than they need. This is what they're saying here in this study. This means cells take in less sugar from the blood and blood sugar levels rise. Intermittent fasting almost always improves the cell's response to insulin. So that's a good thing. They saw a study where alternate day fasting, especially when combined with exercise, also mitigates fatty liver disease. That's another good positive outcome of intermittent fasting. So we're looking at increasing our insulin sensitivity and reducing the fat in our liver. It goes on to say, a closer look at the research, however, shows such statements may not be as clear-cut as they are often presented to be. For example, researchers in 2023 liver fat study compared different eating, exercise schedule, alternating days between a reduced calorie intake and an unrestricted diet, only completing an exercise program, or combining the fasting schedule and exercise. The group that fasted and exercised at the same time saw the best results. Well, that makes sense. Yet there was no comparison group in which people didn't alternate days but still had the same calorie intake as the fasting participants. This is an unfair comparison, and similar gaps in study design run through the entire literature on the subject. So they're saying that the research on intermittent fasting isn't clear because the way they're designing the studies. And it goes on to say, 2 meta-analyses of people with diabetes or obesity concluded that intermittent fasting had a positive effect on weight, blood sugar, blood pressure, and blood lipids. In most of the studies, however, the fasting subjects were compared with people that did not change their diet. So again, they're comparing these people to people who didn't change their diet. They made no changes. So how can you compare it to that? You can't. So it says you can only see strong effects of intermittent fasting compared to people who were not given any diet or exercise guidelines. So you see how it's kind of not accurate studies. But as soon as you compare it with equivalent calorie reduction, the benefits of intermittent fasting disappear. Oh, okay, so what they're saying here is intermittent fasting may not be all it's cut out to be and what people are trying to tell you it is. Not to mention, it's it's hard, right? So here's another one. Another study found improvements in... Also, the supposed improvements in insulin resistance is also not always found. Other studies show there's no improvement in insulin resistance. Other studies are showing that possibly waiting till later in the day to eat can increase your risk of dying of heart disease, strokes, heart attacks. They did a study recently on older people that eat late breakfast or don't eat breakfast, and they are at an increased risk of dying of heart disease. I don't know how these studies were designed, but I remember seeing a study years ago about this, showing that people who did not eat breakfast were more likely to develop heart disease. One reason is because they don't talk about this. When you restrict and you fast, and look, fasting is good for certain things in a certain amount of time. But when you do it on a regular basis, it's stressful to the body. The body actually releases cortisol, the stress hormone, Cortisol runs up your blood sugar, it runs up your blood pressure, it runs up your cholesterol. It puts you in fight or flight, which isn't good for the system at all. So, and they go on to say, they compare intermittent fasting with a normal calorie restricted diet, and there's no difference. The people on the calorie restricted diet actually, in some studies, lost more weight. Another big factor, they have found that people who do intermittent fasting to lose weight actually lose muscle mass, which you don't want to do. When I'm helping somebody lose weight, we want to retain as much muscle as possible. But the people doing the regular calorie restriction don't lose muscle mass, or they don't lose as much muscle mass. I mean, if you go 16, 18, 24 hours without eating, and you do this on a regular basis, your body will start to pull for your muscle. I've done it before, and my muscles will get smaller. So, it says here, intermittent fasting makes you hungrier than continuous calorie restriction. That's another problem. That's another problem. Look, if you don't have your meals planned out, you're planning to fail. If you're waiting 16 hours to eat something, and you're off busy, you're out doing something, you're at work, you get really, really hungry, and then you may eat something that's not on your diet, something that's not good for you, and something that doesn't support your goals of weight loss and getting healthier. I recommend that, if you're trying to lose weight and get healthier, you eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, and if you can afford a snack in there if you need it. As long as you stay within your calories, and of course I always recommend a plant-centered diet, plant-based of some sort. I like 100% for myself. If you want the ultimate healing, I recommend 100%, but anything between 90 to 100, maybe even 85% is going to give you benefits that you just can't get on any other eating pattern. So, there's pros and cons to everything in this life. There just really are. And it's kind of, it can get annoying. But that's the latest scoop on intermittent fasting, showing that it doesn't really offer better benefits as far as health or weight loss than eating a healthy calorie control diet does. And in fact, intermittent fasting may cause health problems like heart disease. And there was another study that showed that they were looking at people on Ramadan, diabetics on Ramadan, and when they were doing the fasting week, their blood sugar levels were actually higher than the weeks that they were eating. So there's a lot to look into about this, but I hope you liked the video, and if you're trying to decide what you want to do. But also, I am a big component of exercise, cardio exercise, and strength training, and you got to have some fuel to do that. If you're waiting hours and hours to eat and you go to the gym, you're not going to be able to work out that hard. You're going to hit a wall really, really fast, as opposed to eating some breakfast or a snack before you go to the gym. So I hope you liked the video. If you like it, please share it. Please subscribe to my channel. Check out my page, danthenaturalman.com, and remember, until next time, keep it natural.